Hey VC, this is Harvey of Spin the Black Circle, and welcome to Friday Night Vinyl. Once again on a Saturday. This is becoming ridiculous. Will I ever get back to Friday Night Vinyl actually being delivered on a Friday? Maybe someday the titular promise will return, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to continue, even if it's ironic, to call it Friday Night Vinyl so that you, my kind subscribers, and please do subscribe, like, or comment. If you're not a subscriber, at least you know what's happening if I continue to label it Friday Night Vinyl. And I'm going to talk about a topic, and you have an upload from me. And today's topic is great comeback albums. Notice I did not say greatest comeback albums, because I think greatest comeback albums is too subjective a topic. What is the greatest anything, the greatest guitarists, the greatest albums? It just becomes infinite. Whereas great comeback albums is a different topic, because what I'm talking about is artists with some longevity to their career. And what typically happens over a career that's persisted for 20, 30, 40 or 50 years is that there's a creative peak generally in the first 10 years, otherwise you would disappear as an artist. A creative peak where they hit the zeitgeist, everything just seems to click, and then there tends to be, you can't just stay at that level. It tends to be a bit of a slump or a patchy period with some good work in it that is worthwhile. And then what is wonderful is when an artist of that caliber, so I'm talking about major artists, releases something that re-engages because they hit a burst of creativity, or they find the right producer, or they have a set of songs that just seem to work, or something happens that just coalesces. And the thing is that the reason that works for high quality, high caliber musicians is that their artistic ability tends to be in there somewhere, and then it comes back out. So it's very exciting when that happens. So I'm going to talk about a few albums that for me encapsulate that, starting with probably the least controversial of the lot, because few Johnny Cash fans would argue against the 1994 American Recordings Deaf American album that he recorded with Rick Rubin as producer, being anything other than a creative rebirth. In fact, all four of the American Recordings LPs by Johnny Cash belong in any record collection in my view. Why is this so effective? Why was it a great comeback album? Two things really. First of all, the simplicity of what Rick Rubin did with Johnny Cash, which is it's stripped down to the essence of guitar mainly and vocals. There's some of the musicianship, but very little other musicianship on here. Guitar and vocals, and the song choices, and Johnny Cash mixed with the song choices that aren't Johnny Cash songs and Cash's songs themselves. Amazing tracks on here. Delia's Gone, Let the Train Blow the Whistle, and the final track, which is hilarious, Johnny Cash song, The Man Who Couldn't Cry. So unquestionably, I mean, as I say, this entire American Recordings body of work with Rick Rubin is amazing, but unquestionably a great comeback album. R.I.P. Johnny Cash, but he went out on a high with this body of work. This also qualifies at that sort of level. It's a 1997 LP, Time Out of Mind by Bob Dylan, which I think, let's be careful here, it's not up there with those landmark seminal LPs, Highway 61 Revisited, Blonde on Blonde, Bringing It All Back Home, but it's not far behind. It's not Blood on the Tracks. It's not as good as Blood on the Tracks either, but it's not far behind. This is not top trumps, right? We don't need to rank I don't think we need to rank the art of great musicians, but is a marker for how good this is. It's not far behind that top echelon. And why is that? Again, the right producer, Eric Daniel Lamar, co-producer, but also just the quality. Something clicked to Eric Dylan's songwriting, particularly on the ballads, especially I would say on Standing in the Doorway and Trying to Get to Heaven, but particularly Make You Feel My Love, which has become a standard really. Everyone from Billy Joel to Adele covering Make You Feel My Love. But then juxtaposed with that, you've got some really biting hard blues track like Lovesick and Dirtwood Blues. This is imbued with two things, this LP. Mortality is definitely a theme here. How old was Bob Dylan here? Late 50s, I think, or in his 50s. Mortality's a theme here, and Unrequited or Lost Love is a theme here too. It's one of Dylan's more personal LPs, but it's absolutely tremendous. And it also has it finishes with the epic Highlands, which takes up an entire side and has that amazing metaphor in Highlands, with this waitress trying to get his autograph, as a famous person, and this kind of metaphor of what fans want from him and him kind of backing away from that. So lyrically, musically, it's got this amazing kind of dark feel to it on the production too, and wonderfully played in terms of the musicianship. So Time Out of Mind by Bob Dylan, unquestionably, I think a great comeback album. Not much controversy over the next one either. The Return of the Toxic Twins in 1987 with Permanent Vacation. There was a Reform album before this done with Mirrors, but that is a kind of warm-up where they signed to Geffen Records, but they just came flying out of the blocks with this 1987 comeback. Ragdoll's on here, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Hangman Jury, the opening track, Hearts Done Time. Just before this, they released the co-track with Run DMC, Walk This Way, which was all over MTV. So that kind of kick-started it. Then this came out. But this came out just at that time when all of those hair metal bands, the lesser hair metal bands like Poison and Warrant and Rat, were selling millions of records. And these came in and just destroyed all of that. You know, the quality and depth of this is way ahead of any of those hair metal bands. So, before this, they were massive in the US in the 70s, of course, via albums like Rocks and Toys in the Attic. Fell away to the point where Joe Perry and eventually Brad Whitford left the band, largely because of as they call the Toxic Twins, Joe Perry and particularly Steven Tyler's drug habits. But this was the kicking and screaming comeback LP. The album after this too, Pump, was a great comeback album. Sorry, a great album. But then it started to fall away. They were still successful, but they became this kind of sluck, kind of middle of the road MOR rock band, just kind of diluted down what was great about Aerosmith, which is really kind of sawtooth guitars and rock and roll, to the extent that if I never hear the ballad, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing Again, it'll be a day too soon. But yeah, back to this. This was a great comeback album, and if you like snarling rock and roll from a great rock band, then this is up with Aerosmith's best, 1987's Permanent Vacation. And Aerosmith were inspired by the next band, massively inspired by the Rolling Stones, and I was astounded just 2 years ago when Hackney Diamonds come out, because by no stretch of the imagination did I think the Rolling Stones would release an LP of this quality at any point in the rest of their career. This is a great comeback album. The critics agree, most of the fans agree, and I agree. It was produced or co-produced by Andrew Watt, who's got a reputation, a bit like Rick Rubin, for getting the best out of bands in that comeback scenario. He did it with Pearl Jam too on their recent album. This is astonishing. I'm not going to claim this is up there with the Sticky Fingers or a Beggar's Banquet. It's not at that sort of level. But it is up there with some of their best 70s output, their later 70s output, ranking along albums like Some Girls, for example. And the songs are fantastic. Depending on You's on here, Get Close, particularly the epic Sweet Sounds of Heaven, which Lady Gaga features on. That is a 6-minute plus epic tune. The late great Charlie Watts features on a couple of tracks. So, this was the Stones kind of. Is it the last LP? I hope not. But if it is, they've ended on a massive high, because this is a great Rolling Stones LP, and it does their legacy proud to have had this career high, certainly towards the back end of their career. Let's just be honest. So Hackney Diamonds by the Rolling Stones. If you still haven't listened to it and you're a Stones fan, it's a great comeback album. The next one is a different type of album. It's electronic pop, but this album was by a British electronic duo 24 years after their last LP, Everything But the Girl, in 2023 released the Fuse album, and it is fantastic. It picks up, interestingly, right from where their last two albums left off. So Walking Wounded, then Temperamental. They'd gone from this kind of folk pop outfit into this electronic duo, and it picks up where Temperamental left off. But it's actually better than both of their albums. Those albums. This is for me possibly even the best Everything But the Girl LP that ever has been. It's beautiful. It's ethereal. The choices of the electronics are soothing, but bass heavy and deep. This is a club record for people who are middle-aged, who will probably never go to a club ever again, a nightclub ever again, and it works like that. It's a post-club album. People will never again go to a club, and it's a wonderful thing. My favourite track on this is No One Knows We're Dancing, which I think is aimed at that concept, which is, actually we're still dancing, even at our age, and no one knows we are behind closed doors. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Tracy Thorn's voice has deepened and matured, and it's richer than it was, and it's just wonderful. So Fused by Everything But the Girl, if you like electronic pop, if you like Massive Attack, or you like Depeche Mode, or you like Tricky, or you just like earlier Everything But the Girl, particularly if you like Walking Wounded or Temperamental, pick this up because it's a great comeback album. As is another 80s band, British band, Tears for Fears, who still haven't released anything other than great output, in my opinion. But there was something like a 14-year gap between their last album and 2022's The Tipping Point. So this is the latest Tears for Fears studio album, The Tipping Point, and it is up there with their best. It took them something like 10 years to record this album because they were so particular about being a cohesive set between Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith. Again, it's another duo, right? But it really works. They scrapped an entire album of material until they had what they needed. The theme running through this is mortality again, because Roland Orzabal's wife died a few years before this came out, and there's a few tracks that deal with that and just deal with the topic of more about the topic of a loved one dying than your own mortality. But again, there's loads of uplifting stuff on here too. It's a deep LP. I saw them on tour on a beautiful summer's day in the West Midlands in this summer of 2022, and they were unbelievable live. So no surprise that they just brought a live LP out from that tour because the quality of them as a live act and with the rest of their band is unbelievable. The Tipping Point by Tears for Fears, it's up there with The Hurting, it's up there with The Seeds of Love and Songs from the Big Chair. It's one of the best Tears for Fears albums. It's a cohesive and highly effective set of songs. This next one I think people will find controversial as to whether it's a comeback at all, and I'm surprised that it's not as loaded as it should be, because Let Us Hear You by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, which came out in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, is it's not up there with his best. It's not Born to Run or Darkness on the Edge of Town, but it's a great Springsteen. It's a great Springsteen and A Street Band LP. The songwriting, the A Street Band on this are absolutely kicking it. Just a cooking, rock and roll, snarling A Street Band album, and the songwriting's on top form. And he deals with some meaty stuff on this. Johnny Needs a Shootout, which deals with Gun Law, Last Man Standing, the opening track, which is clearly a tribute to Clarence Clemens, 1 Minute You're Here, Ghosts, and then the closing, I'll See You in My Dreams. This is a great Springsteen and E Street Band LP, and it sounds vibrant and live, like all great E Street Band albums do, with that kind of driving, massive sound. Most of all is songwriting on this, so I think underrated for me, and I think for me there was a bit of a creative slump before this, or just not amazing LPs, just okay albums. But Letter to You is a great album, and I think more people need to hear it. Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band from 2020. Less controversy about the final choice from last year, but definitely unexpected. I did not expect The Cure to release an album as good as Songs of a Lost World, which came out last year. Again, a long gestation period before they released it. Something like 10 years plus since their last album, but it's absolutely remarkable. It is up there with their best. I've gone back to it after the initial excitement. And if you like disintegration, if you like, the early stuff, to like Pornography in 17 Seconds. It's up there with their best. It is it the theme that runs through it is, as per the title, Songs of a Lost World. There's a lot of harkening back to the world that Robert Smith and his band knew lyrically and musically. It kind of says, look, this is not as it used to be, but it's also a forward-facing album. And there's such depth to this, both lyrically and musically, and no way did I expect the Cure to release something this effective so long into their recorded career. Apparently there's more stuff in the coffers, which you'd expect after 10 years, so it's not going to be the last Cure album, but if it was, they would end on a high. So there you go. Hopefully not too controversial, because I'm just saying great comeback albums, and you'll have your own choices. So let's see them in the comments. Tell me, what are those legacy or bands with longevity who for you have released amazing albums, and where did they really strike you unexpectedly in terms of that release? I didn't mention Neil Young at all, for example. We've done that a number of times over the last 3 decades. And again, it's because of the quality of his ability as a musician and a songwriter. Eventually, it starts to bubble back up. So that's what's exciting about it, right? And exciting about music. So there you go. Again, please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Have a good rest of weekend, and hopefully I'll see you next Friday and not Saturday. Peace.